it's time. It is autumn. It is nearly October, so happy spooky month. And I am a sucker for spooky autumn witchy books. And so last month I decided to order myself a few different ones from different genres and just see if I like them or not. And now I'm here to tell you all about the witchy books that I read and to recommend you a few of them. Here's the full stack of books that I read this and last year. So let's get into them. Let's start with the first one, The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. The cover, very pretty, of course. This little pretty book is about the witch Kayla, who works in a library and never talks to anyone apart from her friend, which is a plant, a talking plant. She has to flee and returns to the small island where she grew up on, taking her friend and also a big box of books that she kind of stole, but they would have burned, but also nobody can know about this. And on the island she realizes, oh shit, I have to work and I have to earn money so I can buy myself food and renovate my rundown cottage. So she opens a spell shop, which is not actually a spell shop but more of a jam shop. This is a cozy romantasy, which is more romance than fantasy. It has this nice world building, but nothing ever gets really explained very well. So it's more about the romance between the two main characters, but not really. It has some stakes, but in my opinion it wasn't really done very well. The stakes were just not very believable, and I cared more about the magical creatures living on the island than about the main characters. If you like cozy fantasy with a lot of romance, you probably might like this one as well. Next up, I'm gonna talk about the book Garden Spells by Sarah Edison Allen, which is about two sisters which are kind of estranged because one of them ran away, but now she has to return to the small town and live with her sister again, and she also brings her little daughter. And this one has some dark themes. I would definitely recommend to check them before reading this. This book takes part in summer, and this is all about family and returning to where you grew up, and it's also a lot about plants and flowers. I really enjoyed the description of the garden, and there's an apple tree who throws apples at people, and what the sister who stayed behind, her job is to deliver food that she cooked from her garden to people in the town for special occasions. And when someone eats the things, some magical thing happens to them. For example, honeysuckle wine that she makes in the beginning of the book that makes you see in the dark. The book didn't really catch with me. Is that how you say it? The plot was basically not existent. There were two romance interests for the two sisters that were very perfect, too perfect. There was nothing really to the love interest characters, and the only character I really wanted to read more about was the elderly relative of the two sisters, who, being part of the family that they're part of, I think they're called Waverleys, is that you have a magical ability, and in the elderly relative, it manifested itself in the sudden urge to give someone an item without knowing why or anything really. So she just gave people stuff in the middle of the night, and then you read a few days later something happened where the character needed that item, and that was very fun to read about and would have made for a more interesting plot, I think, than this one. But yeah. Okay, next up, this fun book. The cover is nice. I am a sucker for something shiny on the cover. So now I'm gonna talk about Cackle by Rachel Harrison, which is a very funny book. Most of the witchy books I'm gonna recommend in this video are romance based and or have a subplot of romance, and this one does not have that. This is about a woman who gets dumped, and so she applies for a job in a small town again. A lot of small towns happening in those books, but she just moves to a small town to be a teacher, and then there's this weird woman living in the small town, and the weird woman, tries to befriend our main character. She's very elegant and good looking, but also mysterious. She lives in a mansion in the woods where nobody's ever been. Nobody knows anything about her, but the villagers are afraid of her. They think that she's very weird, and so the main character kind of is, that's nice, I'm gonna investigate, basically. And don't read this if you are afraid of spiders. There's a lot of mention about spiders, but the spiders are cute. So one of the spiders is her pet. As for the genre, it is kind of a women's fiction genre with a little bit of fantasy and magic, and it was quite funny. I really enjoyed this one. Next up, I'm gonna talk about Weyward by Amelia Hart, which has a very pretty cover, and it is about 3 women in different timelines, and they are all connected by blood. And it starts with one of the women in the 1600s being put on trial because she's suspected of being a witch, and which was kind of my favorite timeline of all of the timelines. The other 2 are, one is in the now and one is during the Second World War, and this book was really atmospheric. It has a very nice writing style. I really enjoyed the short chapters and it forcing you to read a lot because you want to know what happens. But this book is really brutal and it left me kind of in shambles. I feel read all of the trigger warnings. There is a lot of abuse happening to these women, and I feel like it could have gone with a lot less abuse to make the point clear. It was just too much on the nose, I feel like. And I don't know if I would ever reread this book. Maybe in a few years if I can't remember anything from it. But yeah, this was Weyward. Now, I'm talking about 2 books because they are by the same author, which is Sangu Mandana. I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches last year. I remember instantly loving this book. I've read a lot of cozy romance, romantasy books, and they always left me kind of the plot wasn't good enough, the characters were not good enough, there was no tension between the main characters. This book does it all. Probably not the perfect book, but if you want to read something that feels like a warm hug and that feels like your witchy dreams come true, this is kind of it. I enjoyed this book immensely. This book is about Mika, who is a witch, and in her society, when witches are born, their parents die. So they are all very lonely, and she has been told she cannot befriend any other witches so as humans not finding out that there are witches. And then she gets the opportunity to go to a house called Nowhere House, which is run by a couple of very different but very lovely people, and to teach 3 orphaned witches about the way of magic. This book is all about found family, the looming threat of the outside world, and how you navigate in it. It has a plot twist at the end, which if I remember correctly, I did enjoy the plot twist. and it has a sunshine and grumpy relationship, which was not done quite as well. There was a lot of mentioning of the word grumpy when describing the grumpy character, which I can overlook that. And yeah, this one quite cute. And then I read this year her newest book, which is called A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. And if I think about it for very hard and very long, I think I enjoyed this more than the other book. This one is about Sarah, and Sarah is so promising. She is the best witch that is in current existence, and she loses it all as she resurrects her aunt, which dies. Then the book deals with how it feels when you lose something that was such a big part of you, and I does that really well. And the best part of the book is the cottage, the description of the cottage. It is a sentient, warm cottage full of magic. Even though she can't do magic, a part of her magic is still in the cottage. And then her love interest, who has to find a new home because where he lives now with his autistic little sister, he can't stay there. So the cottage opens its doors to him, and there are a few other adorable characters living in the cottage as well. A young knight, a witch that is currently a fox, and of course her dead aunt, and a resurrected rooster who's a skeleton. And yeah, no, this book is cute. This is very cute. Of course, there are things that I didn't enjoy about this book, especially the rushed ending, the way the ending played out, and I could have done without the little smutty scene in between all the nice stuff. But yeah, this one, I love it. I think this will be like my autumn reread going forward in the next years. So, the last book on the list, Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young, which I read last year, and I really want to reread this one this October because this book to me feels like autumn as a person, but the foggy late autumn. The whole time I read this last year, I was wishing that I read it in autumn and not in summer. So do read it in autumn if you can. And do not read this if you don't like atmospheric ramblings about things, places, or long descriptions of stuff. Because this is just that. It is so magical in that sense. It's not very magical in the sense there's not a lot of magic happening in the book. So don't go in and expect a lot of fantasy or magic, because that's not what this book is. This book is about August, who returns to his small island. Again, an island. All the books are either about small towns or small islands. I don't know why. But this one is a small island again, which is famous for its apple farm and the little shops and tourists that pile in every weekend. And now it's the end of autumn and he's returning, and the why he left is because he was a murder suspect in his teens because there was a dead girl. And then it's all about him and the best friend of the girl that was found dead in the past. I remember not enjoying the ending as much, but I can't remember what happened. So yeah, this was good. This was quite nice. Very atmospheric again. These are my favorite witchy books that I read in the past 2 years. I'm gonna give you a few honorable mentions that I know that I read, but I can't remember if I like them or not. So if you're looking for more recommendations, you can read Practical Magic, of course. You can read A Discovery of Witches, The Bear and the Nightingale, Uprooted, and I also read The Year of the Witching. Then I got another one, which I wanted to read for this video, but I didn't have the time because it just came in the mail. And I'm also excited to read this one during October because this is a cozy mystery with a witch and a bed and breakfast. That's all of the witchy books I'm gonna talk about today. Let me know if you enjoyed one of the books that I recommended, or let me know if you have a witchy book that you would like me to read, and we will see each other in the next video.